All that for a super potion. It ain't worth it.
Can we stop doing that? But, and then, it just pisses me off because people do that for Nintendo, but then when we talk about the Xbox and the PlayStation, all of a sudden people remember third parties exist. And no one ever blames Sony for certain games not on the PlayStation. All of a sudden we remember to blame the publishers of these games.
The thing I did once see that was the Xbox and Panzer Dragoon Orta, which that would be, you know, Sega. Though I will be fair and say I can't remember if Microsoft did partly publish those or not. They might have. I genuinely cannot remember. Because they were desperate to have the Xbox be successful in Japan.
My point is, like, can we stop doing that? If you're gonna be mad at Nintendo for not giving you Nintendo games, that's fine. Stop acting like Nintendo controls their entire fucking console, because that's not how anything fucking works. Third parties exist, and you all seem to randomly forget that when you're blaming Nintendo for things, when it is literally not Nintendo's fault. I want Viewtiful Joe to come back, but Capcom controls that IP.
Yeah.
It was a GameCube game initially.
Or, you know, like this as an example, it's like, well, this was on the Game Boy Advance, this would be Konami.
It's a Konami game, fucking morons. Like,
it's a Konami game with nothing from Nintendo in it, because that's the thing some people will try to use with, like, Viewtiful Joe as an example. It's like, oh, but Viewtiful Joe has, like, the Mario whistle in it when you're juggling a bomb. That means, like, if they wanted to re-release that, Nintendo would have to approve that, like, part of the game again. Like I said, this point, like, I, you know, have most like, as you can see, I have most of the areas cleared out. The only thing...
what's funny about that with Viewtiful Joe, the place...
is the PS2.
God damn it. I was about to say that.
Yeah, it's the PS2 version.
The PlayStation 2 version removes everything except for Rob, who was baked into the, background of the space level. And to kind of, you know, change, because it has been, like, a good, probably 40-50 minutes of me just rambling, but, like, just pissed off with everything that was going on because we're just in the fucking crazy world. And I've had this, like, argument and talking about, like, the Rob thing of someone playing the PlayStation 2 version, and I continue to kind of make fun of this person because they just can't fathom something where I talk about, like, it was a stream. I was talking about the game, and they were playing it on the PlayStation 2, and I was talking about, on the PlayStation 2, they did remove the Nintendo copyright stuff, and then they had noticed the Robs, and was like, wait, is that Rob? And I said, yes, and I'm like, how is that a thing? It's like, that shouldn't be legal, and I was like, the game was basically a very sort of rushed 13th hour port, and I brought up that Capcom pretty much just missed the Robs because they're in the back.
The story supposedly goes they basically just missed the Rob because of them being in the background.
And the one person basically went on, that can't happen. Oh, obviously Rob is not important. You can't just miss Rob. How do you miss Rob? I don't understand that. That just doesn't sound true. How could they miss something so obvious? Because the port was like a 13th hour rush job to get that game on the PlayStation.
Somewhat so, and it's something I've, again, also heard. I don't know how true it is. I would love for someone to answer this with, like, a PS2 emulator or something. Apparently, the sound files for the Joe whistling the Mario theme, those are still in the PS2 version. They just turned them off. Apparently, if you hacked the game disc, you could find those in the game's basically audio list. So they're So they're still there. They were just made inaccessible.
Inaccessible through normal means.
Yeah.
Which would make sense because I've heard the game was fucking rushed to get it on the PlayStation. And the streamer, and I made fun of this guy when we played Viewtiful Joe, you know, use this as a topic change, like, but how could you miss something so obvious? I don't know, dude, that just doesn't sound true. Like, you're telling me they really missed the Robs? I don't know, that sounds like bullshit. It's like, do you not realize when you're doing a rush job that you're going in and sort of, you know, panic removing that, because they literally said, obviously, Nintendo doesn't care about Rob, and obviously Rob is a non-copyright issue. It's like, because otherwise Nintendo would have complained and sued, like, Capcom, but it's like, there's no stories that the game became illegal because of the...
Or there are, like, later print versions that have Rob, that don't have Rob without saying anything. It's like, none of this shit was a public, but just later or print versions, Rob is, like, colored green now for some reason.
Rob in the game is just, like, vague enough, but because that was baked into the background and the port was a rush job, it's like, you act like, oh, no company would be that incompetent. It's like, have you ever tried doing serious amounts of panic-induced crunch, and you're going to give me at
that point, I will admit it is weird that, like, it sort of says a hypothetical that you can't remove Rob. Okay, why didn't they, like, just try to make him green or something?
Because the way the story goes, they were told, or I talk about this, and every time I sort of tell this story, I always change the wording a little bit because the hearsay is a bit confusing, but the story basically went, it was a, 13th hour rush job, and they were told to remove the Nintendo references. And the thing is,
okay, time to go get Time Mage.
They were told to remove the Nintendo references and stuff. And if you break it down this way, this makes sense. The Mario whistle is an asset in the game, and I'm pretty sure the file in the game is literally like Mario whistle, or an obvious... I think it's literally just named like Mario Whistle.
If not, it would be Overworld Whistle, because that's, technically the...
And the GameCube that Bruce coughs up is also, I believe, because it's an object, listed as, like, GameCube. Rob isn't an object or a soundbite. Rob is a background layer. When they were cleaning up the game and looking for Nintendo things to scrub out, they were looking for the references in the files. Rob is just part of the background. Of course you would gloss over that. And maybe even forget you did that. And that's how the story goes, and when you justify it that way, that makes complete sense. They scrubbed out the, files that were tangible, like, reference files. There isn't a reference to Rob because Rob isn't an object, technically. I'm pretty sure Rob is just considered part of the background.
Probably, yes.
And that's how you would gloss over it, because there wouldn't be a reference to Rob. You would have to remember that someone put Rob's in the space level. Everything else was a sound effect.
Yeah, fuck you, level. Not so hard when I have shit that can hit underneath me. Okay, now if you remember, after beating, like I said, after beating Legion, you get the ability to go past Chrono Mage, which lets you both get them as a soul, which, like I said, is basically the stopwatch item, but also lets you go in here.
My short point, because the one guy just refusing to acknowledge, how could they miss that? It's like, they were cleaning out the references, but Rob is a baked in, Rob is baked into the background. And unless the file specifically mentions Rob, of course you're gonna miss that, because it's a background layer.
Oh, damn it. And again, like a lot of things, all this for weapons that don't matter. I say that, but there was also one of the ancient books right there, so again, I actually can't remember if you do need to do that or not, because, in the items, item use, because there's, there's the, actually, that's a funny thing, it says 2 of each. You actually don't have to recollect those because New Game Plus. Huh, funny.
Yes.
So I do wonder if those are actually needed, because I've seen, like I said, people say you need those for a thing, so yeah, that's the point of the like that's the point of the Chrono Mage thing. So because of that now that I've like naturally in the playthrough actually picked up all 3 while I'm walking to that down area, because as you can see that will connect to like what is now actually progression, and well, actually, because there's a warp right there, I'm going to warp to get that tiny sliver of a top roof in the one area. But basic, killed by fucking Chrono Mage. I didn't even know you could. Fucking touch damage. Anyway, besides the Bat Soul, the other 2 souls you need for the important thing, or the soul for the Flame Demon, and the other one is the Succubus soul, which, again, because of New Game Plus, I already have, because, you know, they're the Succubus and the Flame Demon, those are just 2 basic enemies, where the Succubus demon, I used it for a minute there. It made, like, on... Wait, no, I have to go back to the top. Shit, not down.
Shit the rock.
It's up. The Succubus makes it to where every hit you drain HP, except it's a fixed amount of HP. It's 10 on a normal mode, 5 on a hard mode. I kind of wish it drained HP based on, like, your attack. Like, it was a percentage of your damage, like maybe a quarter of like the damage you did, though if it was, you know, something like that, it's like hitting things was like the axe, I would get like most of my health back there, or at least a good chunk of health back, because that's like, that attack was like 1,000 damage.
Well, we could apply sort of base level Pokemon logic, and if you wanted to make it not as broken, you set it by overall HP of the target. That way, even if you deal like a good 1,000 damage, if something doesn't have 1,000 health.
Well, even with that, something I can't remember why I said, like, oh, I would have, you know, gotten a good, like, 200 or 300 from that, because that's over 1,000 damage. I can't remember if the Succubus is anything that deals damage, or if it is literally just your basic attack. Because if it is just your basic attack, I kind of feel like it should have been worth more. It should have been, like, a quarter of the damage you dealt, or, like, a quarter of the things, like, max HP or whatever. But, oh, that would make it too broken. Except if it's your basic attack, I feel it's not that broken. I should re-equip that in a minute to find out. I also should use the bat form more because it's faster. I'll do that more because it's much, much faster. explain what the Flame Demon does in a bit. I would have to show that, because there's a reason you need all three, even though this is one of those. I love when a game or like a movie or something has like a twist, and because it has like a twist or a like reveal in it, the thing that was supposed to, you know, be a secret when the game came out becomes a like iconic part of the game. So the like being coy about this, everyone fucking knows what like basically what the answer to this is, so there's like almost no reason I should be coy, but I'm
or you have Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, where you can experience the story out of order and the story can spoil itself.
Okay, this game, the story can kind of spoil
yes, but
itself if you pick up on context clues.
I've seen so many people with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom get big mad that they found like one of the last memories first and feel like it tainted the game.
Because you can do that.
Talking about Tears of the Kingdom specifically, mild spoiler warning, because it's not the like oldest game ever, even though this was talked about, but I'm still prefacing a warning. But it does make a point, and I do agree with someone's take here, but with the spoiler warning, you could skip around a minute or two, but basically, where someone who hated that game was playing Tears of the Kingdom, found one of the last memories first, learned that the Zelda that everyone keeps seeing was an evil puppet of Ganon, and was like, well, fuck, the entire story's ruined. And then every time they saw that Zelda, they're like, I know she's an evil puppet. It's like, it just ruined the game for me.
Because that's the problem with non-linear design. Asshole. Okay, you can move on to the plot now. Yay! Remember plot? I like plot. I like plot in my video games. Yeah, okay.
Know what you're doing, but I'm laughing because people will often use plot as a allegory for giant asses. So when you say
no, that term has become cake now.
Yes.
The term for giant ass has become cake.
You've become cake. Remember that meme of "Is it cake?"
Duh.
Because that was a meme for a while there.
Oh, wait, is it? Wait, I think I have to go. Damn, I have to go the other way, I believe.
And a lot of people liked the "Is it cake?" meme because there were some people who made some really convincing looking cakes that looked nothing like cakes, and that was a fun.
Then as the internet does, this leads to then the anti-meme renaissance, where someone had something look like a cake, but the thing that looked like a cake wasn't a cake. Because, like I said, anti-meme.
Like that Japanese game show that gets used out of context, where the whole point of the game show was something in the room was made of candy, and the contestants had to find it. So you'll just get that like meme out of context of a dude biting a doorknob. But
my question is, what the fuck? Like, is something in here, you know, made of candy? My question is, what candy did they use for that? Because I feel like you shouldn't have to bite the doorknob when the doorknob smells like peppermint.
I think it was a chocolate.
But even then, it should still smell like chocolate. Or you should maybe, you know, have the, like, chocolate, like, texture or big...
No, but the objects would look convincing because they would be done, I never remember the name of that stuff, and we talk about this all the time. That wedding we went to, and I always get my fucking wires crossed on who it was for this, where their wedding cake looked like a shoe.
We've only gone to 2 weddings, and if it was the shoe, that wasn't a wedding. That was Joseph's either graduation, or if not graduation, that was him getting the one job.
No, I thought that was his wedding.
No, it wasn't. Because I remember the one thing, I remember it being in a different building. Pretty sure that wasn't his wedding. I think it was either his graduation, or the reason it looked like a shoe was because of him getting the one job, even though the one job was
No, I remember that being a wedding thing. Because it was done as a joke. I remember that being a special wedding thing. But I always forget the name of the stuff. It's an edible sugar mixture, but it can be used to make foods look pretty convincingly real. And I believe that game show used that stuff.
Well, I assume they would, because at that point, one of the only ways to tell would be smell.
But that's why.
Okay, I go down now, I believe.
And if I remember right.
Yeah, hey, look at that. We have actual progression now. It's a miracle.
If I remember right, the one out of context thing of the dude biting the doorknob, I think that was the chocolate, because I believe he ends up biting the doorknob off.
True.
So, but people without context is just a Japanese guy
eating a doorknob.
Well,
Dude.
Okay, handle wasn't a knob. It was like the end. Because the game show was Find the Candy. But just him, biting the handle of a door, and, and if you don't know what the context is, it does look like man just ripped the door handle off with his teeth. It's time for the question of the day, and my overall thoughts on the topic. So, anyway, in order to take a break from the more serious questions I was doing in the last couple of parts, today I have a less serious question. How many of you get the point I was trying to make about the PS2 version of Viewtiful Joe? Because the one guy just could not understand or fathom how they could miss the Robs in the one level, even though the Robs are only in the first room and they're in the background. So it's not unreasonable to assume that they overlooked the backgrounds and didn't think to go in and redraw the background art. I understand removing the whistling Easter eggs and the GameCube that Bruce can vomit up, because those are actual assets in the game, whereas Rob is part of the background. So unless you go in and manually redraw the background, you would easily overlook the fact that Rob was in the background, because Rob is only used in that first room, and then Rob is never used again. And I feel like that's the reason they overlooked Rob, because Rob was used as an Easter egg in one background in the first room of the final level. So, in my opinion, it's not really surprising that they overlooked the Rob Easter egg, but the one guy just could not fathom or understand how they overlooked something so obvious, even though this was a rush job to comb through the game and remove the Nintendo references, and the reference to Rob is the background layer of one room in the final level. And if you were rushing in order to meet an unrealistic deadline to get a PlayStation 2 version made that needed all the Nintendo references removed, of course you would easily overlook a small Easter egg in the background layer of one room in the entire game, and that room is in the last level, and I'm pretty sure all they did was comb through the game code and disable all the files that referenced Nintendo, and because Rob was baked into the background layer of one room in the game, no one thought about redrawing that entire background in order to either remove Rob completely or change Rob's color and hope that a color change was legally distinct enough in order to avoid any potential problems. And it seems like no one from Nintendo noticed or cared that Rob was referenced somewhat illegally in the background layer of the first room in the final level in the game. And it also would not surprise me if, because of how that game is stylized, that you can make an argument that they never explicitly refer to the robot by any specific name. They don't use the Rob name or refer to the robot in the way Japan does, where he was basically just robot. It's just a Rob-looking design as part of the background layer in one room in the final level. In my opinion, that is incredibly easy to overlook, but the one streamer seems like the kind of person that refuses to acknowledge when they're wrong because they could not fathom or understand how you could miss something so obvious. But when people are under a ridiculous time crunch, people are bound to make mistakes, especially if the reference to Rob is not mentioned at all in the game code, because Rob was baked into the background. So it would not surprise me if that background layer internally does not mention Rob at all. Anyway, you can leave your thoughts, opinions, and answers in the comments, or you can leave them on social media. All of my social media links, as well as my Discord links, are in the video description. Now, as always, I need to be a shill for a minute. If you subscribe to the channel, and if you follow me on social media, that really helps our communities grow. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope I will see you all next time. So, as always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody. I hope you will come back someday. See you later.